The next few weeks could define Rachel Reeves' entire political career. The autumn budget, scheduled for November the 26th, is shaping up to be one of the most consequential in modern British politics. And this time, the stakes couldn't be higher. Reeves faces what insiders are calling an almost impossible challenge, finding somewhere between £25 billion and £30 billion, largely through new tax measures. The problem? She's boxed herself in. Labour's manifesto explicitly promised not to raise income tax, VAT, or national insurance, the three major levers of taxation. Government insiders and economists say the black hole in the public finances is widening by the week. Stubborn inflation, slower growth, and higher borrowing costs have left the Treasury scrambling to meet its own fiscal rules. Reeves's golden rule that debt must fall as a share of GDP within 5 years now looks increasingly difficult to meet without significant revenue-raising measures. And that's the political dilemma. How do you raise tens of billions without breaking your biggest election promise? Rachel Reeves is considering raising income tax at next month's budget to help reduce a multi-billion-pound shortfall, sources have told The Guardian. The Chancellor is in active discussions over breaking one of her party's main manifesto pledges as she looks for ways to clear an estimated shortfall of more than £30 billion, according to three sources close to the budget process. If that happens, it would be a monumental political U-turn, one that could trigger a backlash so severe it would cause irrevocable damage to this government's credibility with the public. For now, Reeves' strategy appears to focus on the wealthy, or as one insider put it, those with the broadest shoulders. Among her first targets are limited liability partnerships, or LLPs, widely used by lawyers, accountants, and consultants, especially those in London's Magic Circle firms. These partnerships benefit from an unusual quirk in the tax system. They aren't required to pay employers' national insurance contributions. Reeves reportedly views this as fundamentally unfair. Her team believes that closing this loophole and imposing a national insurance-like levy on LLPs could raise around £2 billion. It's not insignificant, but it barely scratches the surface of what she needs. Next up is the much-rumoured mansion tax, another policy aimed squarely at those with assets. The Mail on Sunday ran a striking headline that captured the tone of the national debate. Rachel Reeves' mansion tax raid plot, class war plan will punish hard work and aspiration, say critics who warn nothing is safe from Labour. At nearly the same time, The Telegraph published its own headline, Chancellor eyes up mansion tax as she takes aim at middle class. Both reports point to the same concern that Chancellor Rachel Reeves is preparing to target homeowners with new taxes to plug the growing fiscal hole in the government's finances. This year has been extraordinary for the number of leaks and speculative reports surrounding the housing market and potential tax changes. Reeves, who has repeatedly pledged to ensure that those with the broadest shoulders bear more of the tax burden, appears to be taking an asset-based approach to taxation. The latest and most widely discussed leak is the so-called mansion tax. According to multiple reports, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is actively considering a new annual levy on high-value homes as part of the upcoming budget. Under the proposals, the owners of properties worth £2 million and above would face a charge of 1% of the amount by which the property exceeds that value, meaning that owners of a £3 million property would face a bill of £10,000 every year. While this could raise a few more billion, it also risks freezing the housing market and hitting middle-class homeowners, especially those in London and the South East, who bought ordinary family homes that have simply appreciated over time. Both of those tax rises currently being explored, the levy on limited liability partnerships and the proposed mansion tax, are each projected to raise around £2 billion. In total, that's roughly £4 billion, barely a dent in the 25 to 30 billion pound black hole Reeves needs to fill. And that shortfall is precisely why there are now strong reports that Rachel Reeves is considering raising income tax, despite Labour's clear manifesto pledge not to do so. In private, even senior Labour figures admit that breaking the tax pledge would be an act of political suicide. It would be irrecoverable. The backlash would be immense. For decades, Labour has fought against the perception that it's the tax and spend party. Every election cycle, the Labour Party faces the same accusation, that it's the party that will raise taxes. If you remember the 2024 election debates, one of Rishi Sunak's repeated taglines was, "Labour is going to raise your taxes."
Keir Starmer would put all that progress at risk. He would put up everyone's taxes by £2,000. In their DNA, your work, your car, your pension.
Thank you. Okay.
Labour will tax it.
The long-standing narrative that Labour is a tax and spend party, the party that will inevitably raise taxes, was something Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves were acutely aware of, and they worked tirelessly to dismantle it. That's why, in their manifesto, Labour went out of its way to make a clear and emphatic pledge on page 21. Labour will not increase taxes on working people, which is why we will not increase national insurance, the basic, higher or additional rates of income tax or VAT. Labour built much of its election campaign around this promise, a central assurance to voters that they would not raise taxes on working people. Both Starmer and Reeves understood the political damage that the old tax and spend label could cause, and they made eliminating that perception a key part of their strategy. In the autumn 2024 budget, Labour had already introduced the largest package of tax rises since 1993, an eye-watering £40 billion in total. At the time, Rachel Reeves insisted it would be a one-off event, declaring that Britain's finances were now on a firm footing and promising that she would not need to return for another major tax-raising budget. That message was meant to draw a line under years of Conservative criticism and prove that Labour could be trusted with the economy. But now, just a year later, as the 2025 autumn budget approaches, the perception that Labour is once again reverting to type, the tax and spend party, is beginning to resurface. Every leak, every rumour of further tax increases chips away at the image Reeves and Starmer worked so hard to build. It doesn't matter how carefully the Treasury frames the decision. To many voters, another round of tax rises would confirm their worst fears, that Labour can't resist raising taxes. If income tax is increased, it wouldn't just be a broken promise. It would symbolise something far more damaging, a complete collapse of political trust. The party that campaigned on protecting working people would suddenly look like it was punishing them instead. In politics, perception often matters more than policy, and this U-turn could cement in the public's mind the very stereotype Labour spent years trying to distance itself from. Within Number 10 and the Treasury, some are reportedly trying to build a case for breaking the tax lock, or at least bending it. The argument goes like this: VAT is too regressive, national insurance is a tax on jobs, but income tax could be sold as the least worst option. After all, it applies to all forms of income, from salaries to pensions to rental income, not just earned wages. In theory, that could be framed as a fairer approach. But in practice, it's political dynamite. Every income group would be affected: workers, pensioners, landlords, everyone. It's hard to imagine any government surviving such a move unscathed. If they do it, it will hit every income group, and the backlash will be so significant it would be irrecoverable. The numbers might justify it, but the optics would be catastrophic. Labour won the 2024 election partly by convincing voters it could be trusted with the economy. Breaking a flagship manifesto pledge within 18 months would shred that trust completely. What makes this moment so precarious for the Labour leadership is not just the scale of the fiscal problem, but the pit-deep hole of public trust they now sit in. Keir Starmer is polling as the UK's most unpopular Prime Minister on record. A year ago, Keir Starmer's Labour Party won the largest majority in Parliament this century and consigned the Conservatives, Labour's historic rival, to its worst defeat. Now, after 15 months in power, Starmer has become the most unpopular British Prime Minister on record. Although previous leaders have joined despised foreign wars, bungled responses to a pandemic, and nearly sent the economy into meltdown, none have been as unpopular as Starmer, according to Ipsos, a leading pollster. Just 13% of voters say they are satisfied with Starmer, while 79% are unsatisfied. Labour has suffered the worst ever fall in support for a newly elected government, said John Curtis, the doyen of polling in Britain. In this context, for Labour to contemplate raising one of the three major taxes, income tax, despite their clear manifesto promise and just a year after a major £40 billion tax-raising budget, is to play with fire. Voters already believe Labour cannot be trusted on its word when the results are tough. A tax rise now would hand the opposition a potent weapon. Labour said they wouldn't. Here they are doing it anyway. It would feel like an admission that the leadership got it wrong, mismanaged, or simply misled the public. With Starmer's popularity so low, his ability to absorb that backlash is extremely limited. A large-scale tax rise would all but seal Labour's and Starmer's fate at the next election, not merely unpopular but politically fatal. Adding to the pressure is Britain's stubborn inflation problem. Unlike other G7 economies, UK inflation remains elevated, partly due to high energy prices and wage growth. Any move to raise VAT would worsen the cost of living crisis. Politically impossible for a Labour government elected to make work pay. But higher income taxes could also dent consumer spending, slowing growth further. It's a delicate balance. Reeves can't risk an economic slowdown, not when the government's credibility depends on growth returning. Yet, without higher taxes or spending cuts, her fiscal rule becomes almost impossible to meet. Behind the scenes, Treasury officials are exploring smaller, quieter options, closing loopholes, adjusting capital gains rates, and revisiting reliefs on pensions and inheritances. But those measures, while politically safer, don't raise the kind of money needed to plug a multi-billion-pound gap. There's also complication: the internal politics of Labour itself. Reeves' authority is tied to her image as a cautious, competent steward of the economy. But if she's forced to break her own rules, her position could become untenable. Some within the party already whisper that she might have to resign if the budget includes a direct breach of the tax lock. That would be a seismic moment. Reeves' team is reportedly working through multiple scenarios. Scenario 1. Stick to the manifesto. Raise revenue through loopholes, property taxes, and high earner levies, and hope growth picks up. Scenario 2. Bite the bullet, break the pledge, and raise income tax to restore fiscal credibility. Scenario 3. Attempt a hybrid, minor tax rises, heavy spending restraint, and optimism that inflation falls faster than expected. Each path carries immense risk. Scenario 1 may please voters but spook markets. Scenario 2 may calm markets but enrage voters. Scenario 3 may satisfy no one. Beyond the political theatre, the stakes are real. Higher taxes, whatever form they take, will hit households already stretched by rising rents, mortgages, and food prices. For middle-income families, even a modest tax rise could mean hundreds of pounds less disposable income per year. For pensioners, it could mean higher taxation on private pensions. For small businesses, it could mean fewer hires or wage freezes. And so, as November 26 approaches, all eyes are on number 11, Downing Street. Will Rachel Reeves hold the line or break the biggest promise of her political life? One thing is clear. The backlash will be so significant, it could be irrecoverable. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more from Eureka.